our friend, the host of Greenlight Podcast himself, two-time Super Bowl champ. It's been a while since I've spoken to him because I've had my German walkabout. I'm back here in the States. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Chris Long. How are you, sir?
Rich, you too, man. Where are you spending Thanksgiving?
On the set of NFL Network. How about you?
Oh, lovely. That's like when I used to be a kid and my dad worked all the time on holidays.
Yeah.
And he would like try to slick move the holidays. And I'd be at school wishing kids like a Merry Christmas 2 days after the break. And they're like, dude, it's not Christmas. Your dad's lying to you. You know?
What do you mean he'd slick? Give me Howie's moves. What do you mean? What do you mean he would slick?
So basically, if he'd have to play on Thanksgiving, he would say Thanksgiving was like 2 days later.
Okay.
You know, we'd have Thanksgiving, you know, on like a Monday or something. And then the same thing with Christmas and all that stuff. So that's what it's like, you know, growing up in a football family. The holidays are kind of flex.
Yeah. You flex them. You know, that's the way I used to handle moving the clocks with my kids. You know, like Susie and I would not change the clocks on them, until later in the day. Because they would look at the clock when we moved, you know, when we would ever spring, what was the problem? We'd ever spring back, right? We'd keep them where they were.
Forward.
Right. Whatever it was, whatever is to our benefit, we didn't move the clocks. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, that's what we used to do. But other than that.
Fall back at the bar at 2 a.m. is great. I was in Tuscaloosa a couple weeks ago for that.
Oh, yeah.
More time in T-Town. So
that's true.
There you go. Well, I need to take notes right now on that. Okay,
Chris, in case you're ever out at 2 a.m.
Tuscaloosa. All right, let's hit it right here on the program. Did the Bills fix everything? What do you think?
I don't know if they fixed everything, but, you know, coming into this game, I was excited about Joe Brady. I don't think it's a lesson. You can't judge a coordinator, you know, on a stint in Carolina. You also can't judge him for one game in Buffalo. But what I will say is they attacked the intermediate part of the field more. I thought they looked more like the Bills. It was Josh with the QB run stuff. I thought they did a better job, guys, late in downs, finding voids and zones, continuing their routes, breaking them off in the right spots. There was a Kincaid play where it kind of looked like Kelsey and Mahomes, you know, that relationship on an extended down. And that's what's missing. I mean, I just think the artistry of Josh Allen is not always taken advantage of. And I thought with Ken Dorsey, they weren't calling games; they were just calling plays. And with Joe Brady, it felt more like my one complaint would be give the ball to James Cook in the red zone early in that game. They did a good job at the running back position, including like Josh just being a part of the run game. So I was much happier with the way the offense looked. And your Jets, man, they have a good defense, but that's 30 points on the Jets. That's a really good day at the office for Joe Brady in his first game.
You know, what I saw out of the Bills was, you know, Allen taking profits instead of going broke. Profits. You know, and I saw that more. And of course, I saw some, you know, designed runs. I saw actual runs that they were sticking with. And so I saw a much better, obviously the Shakir throw was gorgeous, and Shakir made some great moves himself to get in the end zone. So I saw some real positive signs, quite frankly, that certainly when you're making a coordinator change in a short week, just before the Thanksgiving week, you know, I mean, that's what I saw. Out of the Bills, Chris.
I feel like they got to be rejuvenated, excited. They have a really tough schedule down the stretch, but if this is a team that slides in, they're going to be as dangerous as anybody because they'll have passed these tests. So excited for them, and you know, I thought just overall looked more like the Bills. You said it, taking the profit, the middle of the field. You look at his passing map; he was peppering that thing, and a lot of times it was either deep ball or something in the flats or an extended play where he has to make magic. Now it looks like they're actually running an offense.
So let's talk about the Jets here. What in the world do you think is going on in that locker room right now, Chris? Give me your best guess here.
My best guess is the defensive players are feeling like they're wasting some time, some valuable time. Anytime you trot out there. I played on a team for 8 years that, you know, we were 1-15, we were 2-14, we couldn't get together offensively. And you look up at some point, you're like, damn, I just wasted the prime of my career. And that's a heavy realization for some of these guys. And so, last year you felt like, okay, it's 1 year of this. We've come to a conclusion. We're going to bring Aaron in, the whole thing. But as the season's gone on and they haven't made a move at quarterback until Tim Boyle late in that game yesterday, it just feels like too little too late. Anything you do from this point on just feels like a half measure. Doing it the right way would have been to see the sample size and see that it doesn't look much different than last year. There was a time for a couple weeks here where we were like, the Jets are different this year, and they really aren't. I mean, when you add up to some of the parts, they're kind of the same team. And, it is the definition of insanity trying to continue to do the same thing and get a different result. And that's where I feel like you guys are at. And for defensive players, it's got to be tough. But I give them a lot of credit because you don't hear a peep. I don't hear a peep out of those guys. Like they go out, they play their butts off. It doesn't go their way every week, but they're the reason that they're in a lot of these ball games. And I haven't heard a guy at the podium after the game, turning on Zach or the offense. And so I tip my cap to those guys.
Well, I mean, you got to give Saleh credit for that. And
yes.
and his body language doesn't move ever, and as a defensive guy, seeing his defense playing the way that it is playing, his inner monologue, he must be shrieking in his head, watching one of the worst offenses ever. My question for you is the moves. They were talking about playing younger players going into the Bills game, and then hardly any of them played. But be that as it may, it does feel like they are totally paralyzed because they're not making moves that they normally would make, benching the quarterback, changing the play caller, benching some of these wide receivers who are not, performing very well because Rodgers might not like it. You might antagonize the guy who's working his butt off out here in Southern California to prove himself a modern medical miracle. And I'm wondering what you think about that, Chris.
Well, listen, I mean, like Aaron Rodgers, incredible player. When they made this move, I was all about it.
Right.
I still think he's got gas left in the tank. And next year, if he wants to come back and light the world on fire, I'm not going to doubt him. The ball looks different coming off his hands, even at this age. But this team was designed for Aaron. You bring in a play caller that suits Aaron. You bring in personnel that suits Aaron. And so, where you look at Cleveland and what they've built, I actually feel just as good about them, maybe better this week than I did last week. And, I feel like that team can buy in the style of football that they play. It's going to simplify things like, okay, we got to win with DTR. It is what it is. We're going to play defense. Stefanski's a great play caller. You saw what he did yesterday. The Jets just weren't set up for this. And, I feel like at this point, there's not much you can do. But with Aaron Rodgers and talking about coming back, I also think he knows they're going to be out of it. So you're never going to have to make good on that unlikely prediction. It's why would Aaron Rodgers come back if the Jets are 4-8? Why would Aaron Rodgers come back behind a line that's been banged up and have to run for his life on half an Achilles if that's the plan? So I think while Aaron Rodgers is saying, hey, I'll be back later this season, you're not coming back if the team's 4-8. You're not coming back if the team's 5-9. There's no gain to that. And I think he knows that.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. I left the Jets out of the three teams I have for your level of concern segment.
Oh, that's beyond that. They're off the chart.
Exactly.
They're off
the chart. All right, so let's get to it. Here we go. We even have production value. Chris Long's level of concern.
It's Chris Long's level of concern.
I love it. I give a round of applause to our
that's
staff.
good. I once asked Scott Van Pelt when I went on Midnight Sports Center, what's the budget on the show? I'm going to ask you the same thing because that's like Microsoft Paint there.
I know. We pass the hat around. That's how we do it. Look at that right there. That's one of Smitch's finest right there.
That's good,
okay.
Smitch.
Okay, yes. I love it. A nice little shout out. All right, Chris Long, your level of concern for the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose running back Najee Harris had this to say after yet another offensive flop, this one in Cleveland.
There's just a lot of stuff that just goes around that it's just that you guys don't see. I guess I'm trying to say. I'm just at a point where it was just like, man, I'm just tired of
Does it seem like the other teams know what's coming?
Yeah, in some situations, to be honest with you.
Do you think everybody has that team first attitude?
Do I think everybody has a team first on this team?
Yeah.
I'd rather not talk about a team, I'd rather just talk about me, my performance. If you don't ask questions about me.
All right, Chris, in case you're wondering, we counted it, is length of waiting to answer the question of whether his offense is predictable. 10 Mississippis, 10 of them.
Yeah, 10
Chris.
Mississippis. That said everything. And honestly, I hadn't heard that quote yet, but when you watch the tape, it's obvious they are predictable. When it comes to panic on the Steelers, I'm not, because, they have such a high floor, even with the coordinator issues, even with not knowing really who Kenny Pickett is. They don't even give him a chance to prove that he's not just a guy. I think if you look at their run down the stretch, I think they have Cincinnati twice. So that's a big come up for them, not seeing Burrow in those two games. They're a playoff team. They'll get in the playoffs. Can they win a playoff game? I don't know. But what's the ceiling on a team like this? You've traded the ceiling for a floor, That's kind of the way I think about this team. Everything's playing not to lose the game. And Tomlin, I give him so much credit because he is such a great coach, and he's the reason why they win a bunch of close games, low-scoring games. But offensively, you don't have to do every damn situation this way. And to the predictability, there's a play, they run a swing pass to Warren on the trip side, and they try to clear everybody out with the receivers. But the slot defender, he's breaking on that throw before Pickett even catches the ball. He's not flat-footing in zone for a second. He's just going. Same thing on a swing pass late on 3rd and 4. I think they're in cover 2. Corner just comes off and makes the play in the flat. There's a ton of stuff that is completely predictable from this offense. You give the ball to Warren like 9 times on the game. That guy's electric. He's your best player on offense. And when you look at yesterday, they're just not ready to play. They're just not ready to play, whether it's the safety that they get bailed out on, or the play after that where Hayward gets blown up, or it's the delay of game in the first half. It's the 12 men on the field where you got to take a timeout the second play of the game. Really uncharacteristic stuff by them. And the passing attack from Cleveland was actually more in sync. And this is DTR, the guy who the last time we saw him looked awful against Baltimore. And I want to give the kid credit because they believed in him enough to operate that drive at the end of the game and go win it.
So I got to be honest with you. Your last 45 seconds of your take there, Chris, did not sync up with "I'm not panicking." They're a playoff team.
They are a playoff team, but really, what you have to define what panic is. Did you expect that they'd win 12 games and make a run at the Super Bowl? I don't. If you expect that, then you should panic. But you should have been panicked 5 games ago. I know they went on this run and. People feel like it's all sunshine and rainbows, but obviously just one loss and Najee's sitting on the stool there. And it sounds like this is a sub 500 team. So obviously they've been bailed out and, in a number of situations where it probably feels like a loss to some of these players when they get back in the building because of the way things are operating, but they're winning games. I still think they're a playoff team. If somebody wants to take the other side of that, let's talk turkey. Off air, but I think their ceiling is what it is, and it's always been.
All right, Chris Long, level of concern for the Seattle Seahawks, who got swept by the Rams. You're high. Why is that?
High. Well, I mean, listen, they're bad in some of the most situationally. I mean, situational football is huge. They do not ace red zone. They don't ace third down. Yesterday in that game, you talk about end of game management, where you get the ball with a chance to kick a field goal and win to DK Metcalf. You're at about the 40-yard line. He catches the ball with 35 seconds. You can't get the play in the headset's busted or whatever, Geno runs a run play, they end up kicking the ball from a million yards away with 8 seconds to go. Like, they're failing at situational football. And with Seattle, you're looking at the rest of the schedule. I mean, they have like Dallas sandwiched with 2 San Franciscos. They've got a bunch of tough teams down the stretch.
Philly.
I mean, the red zone stuff showed up yesterday. They kicked 2 field goals up 7-0, 10-0, 200 yards and penalties. They're not disciplined enough to be this average. And I mean, like, I'm not saying Geno's turned into a pumpkin. I'm giving him a lot of credit for coming back in that game after that shot from Aaron and orchestrating that drive, as he's done so many times this year. But when you watch this team, they're always off kilter outside, whether it's him and DK or JSN or even Lockett, guys that have been there a while. They're just not on the same page. And it just comes down to a lack of details. And I do panic about this team because I don't think they're going anywhere with the situation they put themselves in and the schedule down the stretch.
So then it's interesting. The last team of level of concern I'm asking you about is on the outside looking in the AFC, but there's a ton of room for improvement, and the teams in front of them are 5-5, whereas, you know, the Seahawks, you're concerned about them. They're 6-4. There's a whole bunch of teams, you know, behind them at 4-6 that might not supplant them. And so that's a long-winded setup to say, what's your level of concern for the Chargers, Chris Long?
Oh, elite level of concern.
Elite level. Okay.
Because, like, I'm so concerned. I mean, like, and I did this on my YouTube channel last night, and
Yes,
I think Chargers fans feel the same way, is what I took away from the comments. I mean, these guys, sometimes you just tell people what they're thinking, and you're like, okay, this is a window into what being a Chargers fan is. It's insane to me that you wake up Friday morning, Joe Burrow's hurt, Buffalo fired a coordinator. You can go to Green Bay, win a game, and go on this run because the back half of the schedule is pedestrian, and you can't get up for this game. Jordan Love looks like a franchise quarterback, as a lot of quarterbacks have playing the Chargers. The offense makes a ton of mistakes. Telesco picks Quentin Johnson, who might end up being a really good player, but he picks him over, you know, Addison and Flowers. And with the game on the line, drops the ball. You've had 4 of these drives with opportunities to win. Their last 11 games, I think they've lost, and this includes the collapse in the playoffs. They've lost 5 one-score games. They've beaten Aiden O'Connell, Kirk Cousins, Zach Wilson, and then somebody else, I can't even remember who, but they haven't beaten good quarterbacks. They've lost close games. They've blown leads. They've lost games on defense. And this is a problem that predates Brandon Staley. You know, it's whoever's coaching the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, over a span from 15 to 19, I think lost 31 games by 1 score. So it's like they built the thing on a burial ground is what I think is like there's some bad juju going on that this team can't shake, this franchise. So it starts at the top. But with Brandon Staley and that presser after the game, that doesn't seem like a guy who's going to lead this team on a run. This seems like a guy who knows his days are numbered, and he wants to blame it on the offense. They've been in the bottom 10 in EPA defensively since he got there. So, listen, I think Brandon Staley's a good coach. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a head coach. But as a head coach, it's not working out. And if there's ever a time to try to galvanize the team, it's now, and it's making a change. But I just think being a Chargers fan has to be the most – if it's not for the sunshine out there, you guys, I don't even know what you do. It's terrible watching this team play.
Yeah, the 4th quarterback was Bagent of Chicago.
Bagent.
And yep. So are you advocating for, Kellen Moore? Throw him in there and say, thanks for the memories, Coach. And I know you're, for the radio audience, you just, you know, bristled a bit because I know you don't traffic in the hot seat bag coach's business, but it did sound like you were.
Oh, I said it last night. Like, listen, like, you know, and I feel bad when I say this because Brandon Staley's a human being.
Yeah,
he's coaching his butt off. Yeah. He's not doing a great job at it, but this guy's pouring everything into it. But so is every damn quarterback we bench all season. So is every guy we cut. So, you know, at a certain point, these coaches have no problem upstairs. Like, this ain't working out. We need to get this guy out of town. This guy needs to get his snaps cut down. This is a situation where it's a production business and they're not producing. And if you outline the way they've lost all these games, the way they're wasting what I think is a very big time talent guy in Justin Herbert, you can blame him for all this stuff, but I think that's lazy. Brandon Staley is not getting it done. So if I were Tom Telesco and I actually felt like spending money, which is something he's not known for doing, I might hit the reset button, because if you want to salvage this season and you have an opportunity to do that, even at 4-6 or whatever they are, I would make a change. But I also am not naive. I'm not in the building. And sometimes, like, if you called somebody on the Chargers and was like, hey, what kind of, you think Kellen Moore's a head coach? Maybe the elephant in the room is he doesn't have control of that room. Maybe the elephant in the room is he would not be highly respected by players. So I don't know those things. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is accountability in the NFL works every single way, except sometimes with the head coach. And I think this is a situation where he's got to be accountable.
In the 2 minutes I have left with you, sir, what's your 2 cents about tonight? What do you think happens Monday night?
I like the Eagles. I really do. I mean, don't be surprised. I am biased. I know that team well. But I really do feel like, and last year I was worried about them in the Super Bowl because I felt like the Kansas City team was a little bit different. I think the Eagles are built for this. They get Juergens back. They're really good up front. This is the year, if you've had problems in the secondary for the Eagles, and this is going to be the best group that they've trotted out since Avonte Maddox got hurt, you're getting Kansas City, relatively speaking, when they're down from an offensive standpoint. So I think this could be a game where how you run the ball, and they didn't do that well in the Super Bowl, really matters. And for Jalen Hurts, if you looked at the coverages that they ran against him in the second half of that Super Bowl, Spags threw the kitchen sink at Jalen. They ran everything, and they changed the look up every play. And I know Jalen doesn't love motion. I think maybe he wants to see that picture, and he's one of the best at it. But maybe tonight, a little bit of motion, maybe a little bit of, pre-snap stuff to combat what Spags is doing and get some tells out of them, because Spags is a wizard when it comes to giving different looks, late rotations, and that's what they majored in the Super Bowl.
Who's on your show? Let's promo.
This week we got Justin Tucker. So
fantastic.
Pretty excited about, maybe one of the only kickers I'd be excited about talking to. We're trying for Josh Dobbs. We might get Josh Dobbs here. Okay. Even though they lost last night, I don't feel like Josh Dobbs lost.
No.
He's unbelievable. The guy's how can you not love the guy? I mean, thank God for Josh Dobbs. I love Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, but he has given us a respite from that. If it's not for Josh Dobbs, we're doing the how they track SEC coaches' private jets. We're doing that with Taylor Swift tonight. We're not even thinking about Taylor Swift. Right. We're just thinking about Josh Dobbs.
So for Swifties, you're saying Josh is the anti-hero. Is that what you're saying?
He's the anti-hero.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Karma is the dude on the Vikings.
Take care of yourself, Chris. Have a great Thanksgiving. Yeah. We'll chat next week, brother.
Y'all take care.
You got the one and only Chris Long. Love our chats. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.